I'm now being joined by the YPP presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election, Prince Malik Ado Ibrahim. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sean.
What do you make about the state of the nation as we speak today? It does look like youth of the country, a section of them wanting to go to the street agitated. They say they want to go on a hunger protest and end bad governance. What do you make of that?
I mean, first of all, it's their constitutional right to be able to go and confront government if they're unhappy. The issue really is, can you do it in a way that is not destructive to the nation? And I think that's where the fear is. As a opposition to this government, this party in power, we talked about this at the beginning of the electoral cycle, that the 4 things that will bring this nation to its knees, and we're seeing everything we talked about come to bear. This has been it's a 4-year journey, and we're in the first year of this 4-year journey. And I think the part of the problem is the government of the day has not enunciated its issues. It hasn't said, I've inherited 8 or 12 years of problems, and I'm going to try and turn this thing around. It hasn't been vocal about what it's doing. The communication skills are very poor. The image, the options that you have are there to be able to tell the public and the national unity of this country that, look, it's a big boat to turn around. It's going to take me some time. And you're going to have problems. Everybody's asking for patience. Patience is a virtue that you get when you know that the person you're being patient about has a plan to succeed. President Tinubu is the president of this country. He's elected for a 4-year term. If anybody is going to try to use these sorts of protests to dislodge an elected government of this country, that's treachery as far as I'm concerned. It's a choice we had. The choice was made wrongly or rightly. The protests at the ballot box, not necessarily in the street to cause destruction or to bring the government down, to bring the country down to its knees. So let's say you even succeed. Do you want to inherit a country that is on its knees? Do you want to inherit problems? Let's get to the point where we can protest at the ballot box and then make that change.
So the anger should not be on the street, rather, anger should be at the ballot.
I don't think there's necessary room for anger. We want to express
but when
our
people
issues.
Are hungry, and they're going to be angry.
Well, hunger and anger will come hand in hand. The issue is, why are you leaving it to the last moment? So this is my problem with this. We've got 48 hours before what is being called impending doom and gloom. What happened when they gave you this notice 30 days ago? When you knew this was going to happen, what steps were taken? How did you communicate all these things? We're now pushing and prodding to look for ways in which we can resolve a problem that could have been at least ameliorated 30 days ago or within the last 30 days. Communication skills are very poor in this administration. And I would have said to Mr. President, please come out and tell us your plan.
I mean, what we imagine that, okay, I'd like to ask you, you have identified a flaw and the vulnerability of this government in the messaging of their agenda. You say that communication is very poor. I mean, I wouldn't even go into strategic communication because that's a senior brother to a pure communication. Yes. So the question is it a problem of performance or policies or pure problem of not being able to communicate whatever this government has done?
It's easy to criticize the government in power. And that's not, we're looking for solutions, not to critique things in a bad way. There are things this administration is doing right, but it hasn't even enunciated this. It hasn't even come out and say, look, I'll give you an example. We're looking at the school loans.
The NEL fund.
Fantastic, brilliant program to be able to come out. But as I was told, 70% of that program is being, absorbed by the North. The North has taken, this is the most impoverished part of this country, and it realizes it needs education. Why hasn't the government come out and used that as a positive propaganda? This is what I'm doing, this is what we're doing. It's not it's not even projecting its positives. So what is missing is statecraft. They're acting like a state government rather than a federal government. You put in people in place that understand how to run a state, but not to run a country. It's a different communication skill. Statecraft is needed. Who are we as Nigerians today? We haven't been able to enunciate that. I don't know. I could tell you what we were 20 years ago. We were an oil and gas country going forward and pushing this. Before that, we were a very strong military country that helped liberate countries like Liberia and Sierra Leone. But who are we and what are we today can really poorly be described as a country that is going nowhere and has no rudder, no vision. The next 3 years is a key point in which this administration needs to get Nigeria on its feet. The problems of today can be solved for today. But if you do not make those concrete changes and they don't give you the notice the next time, you're really going to have a massive problem. Now they're telling you we're coming. Next time you may not get that notice. So this should be a warning shot across the bow of this administration. Get your act together, put the right kind of people, make changes before you're forced on by a protest or bad publicity globally like Kenya did. He made the changes after the protest. Mr. President, make the changes before and show that you have those leadership skills that Nigeria wants. Hopefulness, not hopelessness.
Well, that's one of the things that this government, the Bola Tinubu ticket preached, hope.
Yes.
They say renewed hope. I'm imagining that in the thinking of the crafters of the campaign was the fact that there was a dashed hope at some point. Well, I imagine that in 2015, the party preached change. And maybe they thought that the hope of Nigerians were dashed with the Buhari government, and they are coming with the title, The Renewed Hope. And the question will be, yes, there are a lot of, and I personally analyze critically Nigeria vis-a-vis some other countries of the world. I look at South Africa, look at Egypt, look at Kenya, look at Rwanda, compared also to the likes of Egypt, Germany, France, the United States, the United Kingdom. You look at what makes a country, what makes a people, the systems where people can rely on that fortifies the middle class is no longer there in the country. No matter who becomes the president of Nigeria, yes, as of 2023, will face a similar problem that Bola Tinubu is facing.
Absolutely.
And we need to start thinking and start telling ourselves the truth. In a situation where you want to buy a house, you have to go get millions of naira before you can own a home. In other climes, it doesn't work like that. You want to do any other thing, you have to get all of the money. The salaries can't even take you to buy anything that you want. In other climes, you want to buy a mobile phone, you just need a little money, and then you pay over, you prorate the payment. There is no social safety net in this country. The middle class is diminished. The SMEs are not working, are not functioning. The purchasing power of the average person isn't working. We have a system that is majorly a rent economy. So in the first place, we have a nation that is on the precipice in terms of our economy and our structure. Anybody who became the president of Nigeria in 2023 will face a problem.
Absolutely.
In fact, 30, 40 years ago would have been the same issue. The question is that we need to fundamentally go to the foundation. Do you think with the policies of Bola Tinubu and the government, they are touching on some of these fundamentals that I mentioned?
I think, first of all, you've got to be able to critique Nigeria the way you have if you come into office. And from all intents and purposes and lack of communication, we don't see that. When you don't see that, you're left to imagine what they could be going through. Look, we failed on some very critical points that make the foundation of this country solid. How can you grow industry when you have no electricity? I'll go back to this. The man has failed in that job. Put a technocrat there. This is fundamental. Thank God that I can even gladly say we don't have a security issue in this country. It has diminished tremendously, and kudos to the NSA and the military and for what they've done. It's not finished, but it's improved. You can palpably see that, you can feel it. So he has done some things right. The economy is failing, but it doesn't mean that it has failed. We're trying things, but enunciate, bring the country along, be populist. It doesn't take much. Nigerians like to feel as if they're engaged in something. And when you leave them to imagine, they imagine the worst.
If you were President Tinubu, Prince, what would you do perhaps on a day as this? It's just about 48 hours to the day that you gloom and doom.
Yes.
What would you do personally if you were president?
Well, first of all, if I was given that warning 30 days ago, lots will have changed. Engaging Nigerians is what is the simple thing to do. I would have come out, I would have addressed the nation personally, and if I couldn't, I would have got people who keep that narrative and can enunciate and project what I want. But the president, a healthy, sane, confident president, will come out and say, this is where we are. I've inherited this mess. This is what I've put in place. By October, this will happen. By December, this will happen. Give me some milestones that I can feel comfortable. Yes, my president can hear me. You need empathy to rule Nigeria. You must feel everything. It's not a state governor. The state governor rules in a very jagged version. He almost wants to, scare you into feeling that you are being helped. A Nigerian president, 220 odd million people, the capital of black on the continent, has to have empathy, has to engage. Look, Africa is needing leadership today, and Nigeria should be that country giving that leadership. The Mandela era is gone. We don't have somebody on the continent that is leading. I was praying that my President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, would have been that person. But you must lead at home first. So our foreign policy is in the toilet. As far as I'm concerned, we are not the giants of Africa anymore. We don't dictate. We created ECOWAS, and 3 countries have left under this administration, where the president is the president of ECOWAS.
Where is the brilliant Bola Tinubu of 1999 Lagos? Because that is a question. The campaign said the magic Bola Tinubu did in the 8 years, 1999 to 2023, 2003, 2007, 2003 to 2007, brought Lagos on the global map.
Yes.
Made Lagos the 3rd, 4th largest economy on the continent.
Yes.
And a lot of people thought that, well, we will have the same serve of that Tinubu that you had in Lagos. This may be years ago. But there are those who will say it's still the same Bola Tinubu, who was a treasurer of perhaps one of the biggest petroleum and oil and gas industry in the world. The question, where is that Bola Tinubu? Is it a problem of the handlers of this president, or what exactly do you think is the gap?
Well, I would love to get the Bola Tinubu pre-1999, because he'll have been in the streets protesting. This was the man who engineered protest. He would have been in the streets with the Nigerian youth on Thursday, not to cause mayhem and gloom, but to protest and get functional things happening. That is the man that we knew before 1999. Look, I'm 60 years old. I'm looking at this country that's 64 years old, and I've seen things at a young age that I can engage with. I've traveled, I've seen, I've lived in other countries. Look, we are almost there. We don't have a visionary leadership. If it's visionary, it's keeping it to itself. But a visionary leadership presents and projects and gets people on the bandwagon. We're missing that. And I wish my president would get back to that 1999 governor of Lagos State that was energetic enough to push. And if you don't have that energy, you are the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You can onboard the right kind of people. Look, we need technocrats now. Political favors have gone. You've done the first year, Mr. President. Get the technocrats in the places that they need to be. The economy needs to be fixed. If the economy is not being fixed by the right person, get people to help him. Power needs to be fixed. Thank God security is being fixed. Infrastructure. I mean, you have to look around Abuja and just say to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, well done. Visibly engaging and seeing things happen. That's what's missing. But if you cannot visibly see change, give me hope. And the other thing that I'm really upset about is that the narrative is not with the government, it's with others. And when you have that void, when you're not speaking about what you're going to do, what your hopes are, then other people take and they subverge that.
I'd like you to conclude. And yeah, you've spoken to the government and the president. There is the other side. These are we, the Nigerian, the citizen. Yes. What would you say on a day as this to the Nigerian people? Lagos quarter restricted the protests to two parks, but they have not restricted the agitations on the minds of people. In 30 seconds, how would you conclude this conversation, especially to the Nigerian people?
Look, the love I have from this country makes me believe we must protest. We must protest, but we must do it in a way that is respectful, that is not endangering lives of others. But we must get the message, we must get that message to those that say it is their turn to run this country. More importantly, it's so gratifying to see that we've gone back to structures where we say traditional rulers should come in and engage at that level. I am the son of a traditional ruler that suffered where a state governor is pulling you here and there and in the press and bloody fooling you. And you're seeing it in Kanu. But now when you need them, you're now trying to gather them together to push. Now, if you want those traditional structures to be survivable, give them that power, remove them from where they can be disengaged and get them talking to the people and have value.
Prince Malik Ado Ibrahim, the presidential candidate of the YPP in the 2023 presidential election. It's always a pleasure having you talk to us.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.